Okay, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Real Riders Ride. I'm your host, The Spoiler, and today we have very special guests, biker advocates, as I like the category to go. Fine folks from Hupy and Abraham law firm. I have the master rider who's ridden all over the country, Tony, and the marketing director.
No.
Marketing specialist.
Maybe someday.
Right,
I want that.
Melissa. And they're going to tell you about Hupy and Abraham and what they do for bikers' rights. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Oh boy, the floor is mine. I don't know. Tony has seniority here. Well, like you said, I am the motorcycle marketing specialist, and I joined Hupy and Abraham, what was it, like 4 months ago? Mm-hmm. Something like that, about 4 months ago. And to help promote the Watch for Motorcycle message. That's really what Hupy and Abraham does, whether it's through, obviously we're personal injury lawyers,
okay.
So first and foremost we take care of injured riders. We've been doing that for 40 years across 3 states. Time. Yeah, we have 23 attorneys right now.
I lost count.
I know, we keep growing.
Keep growing, right?
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
But it's great. I mean, we have a phenomenal team, and we've been working on taking care of riders with that message and with excellent care, honestly, for a very long time. Recently, I was brought in to get us into the dirt bike world, sport bikes, vintage. I've been riding since I was 12.
Sure.
My father was sponsored by Taco and threw me on a dirt bike when I was a little kid. You know, he didn't have any sons, so
right. Hey,
that happens.
It's a natural progression of it, right? Exactly.
Named your bike.
Oh, God. I think that name's taken.
Exactly.
But no, and you know, it gets in your veins, and
sure.
I've been tracking, and I've got several bikes, and I have my official race license lined up for September 20th. And through all of that, and through the events with the firm, we're just trying to get the Watch for Motorcycle message out there.
Sure.
We have several different like logos, and you know, we support things like ABAID and different charities. We did a big charity event with St. Jude's beginning of the season. So we just try to really do everything we can to help out.
Sure.
Did I cover that pretty well? Pretty good for 4 months?
It's about 4 months.
Now, Tony, what's your role with the law firm?
Well, I started off as an accident investigator.
Okay.
I've been there, I'm going on my 24th year this year.
Okay.
At the firm, so
wow.
I kind of moved into marketing. They kind of gave me a little bit later duty to do.
Okay.
Although it's not less work.
Right.
But I'm not dealing with directly with clients or insurance companies anymore. But when our firm started, actually one of the partners was Lloyd Barbie.
Okay.
When I started, we were involved. We were just phasing out all the other things that we did. We were still doing some criminal work.
Okay.
Did divorce and corporate work. And the attorneys were all leaving, and they were just starting to phase down to do personal injury only. But they were, Mike's partner at that time was Thomas Jacobson.
Okay.
And like I said, he was a founding member with Lloyd Barbie. They were involved with the civil rights movement at the time.
Okay.
Then we kind of phased down. All those other specialties went out, and we're doing just personal injury now. And I came in just on the cusp of that.
The phase out. Okay. Okay.
So 24 years later, I'm in marketing now. But I've always been in marketing because I've been involved in the motorcycle community since I started riding in 1964.
Sure.
And I started getting involved with motorcycle rights in 1972.
Okay.
And I've been instrumental in changing a lot of state laws, or amending language of several laws. So because of all of the involvement in the legislature, I was given an honorary membership in the Lawmakers Motorcycle Club, which was started by Ben Nighthorse Campbell, the first Native American in the Congress in 40-some years. He's retired now, but Ben started that Lawmakers as like a riding motorcycle club of legislators.
Okay.
But myself and a guy in Texas named Sputnik, who died, were the two civilian members of that. If you want to call us civilian, we were not legislators, but we affected a lot of laws.
Pretty prestigious. Now, over the course of your career here, tell us where we're going as far as bikers' rights and motorcycles. Well,
there's a big convention coming up in September here. The Meeting of Minds is from the Motorcycle Riders Foundation, and the A-Beta Wisconsin is going to host that. I'm the founder of A-Beta Wisconsin.
Sure.
I started A-Beta Wisconsin in 1974. And
a big influence on the current director, Chubby.
Chubby, yeah.
Right. He talks about you fondly.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys. Chubby was one. Hardtail was the president of the Motorcycle Riders Foundation, was another one. There's a couple of young guys that come up through the ranks that I spotted right away and said, these guys are going to be special, you know. They had this certain fire, you know, you can see it.
Sure.
If you look, sure, when the guy's got a special fire in him that he wants to take one step beyond what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And our position is everybody in membership is equally important. You know, not everybody can be an officer, not everybody can be a leader. Sure. But we need the bodies, we need the head count. We need that $25 a year because it takes money to run an organization like that.
You people on the ground, that's for sure.
So I never browbeat anybody saying get involved or do more or do this or do that because I'm figuring, hey, they went in their own personal pocket, dug out $25 of their hard-earned money to help us do what we were doing, and I was deeply appreciative of that.
Sure.
So I never told people do more. I said you did what you had to do, or what maybe that's all you could do. And that's a lot. 25 months is a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
So I just kind of watched the guys that were going up above and beyond, and Chubby was one of them. You know, and he's been mentored by a bunch of guys that I had around me when I was starting the organization.
Okay.
Guys from Hartford and Waukesha, northern Waukesha area, and they kind of took him under their wing. So I know he was in good hands.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he's a study too. I mean, Chubby will sit back. He's one of those guys that will sit back in the room and listen to everybody else talk, and he picks bits and pieces and advice and knowledge from everybody. He might not agree with everything, but the things he agrees with, he picks and stores it up here. You know, and he brings it back out when he needs to. So he's a smart guy.
That was kind of evident with the latest edition of the newsletter that they came out with, and he came out with a very appropriate statement regarding some of the current events in the biker world. I thought it was very appropriate. I sent him an email congratulating him because I thought that was very appropriate.
Yeah, he does an excellent column. I mean, he was writing before he was a public relations officer before he became executive director, and he always did a good job of writing. And he and several others, like I say, were shining stars, and I noticed that right away. Mm-hmm. My involvement with A-Bait started in '74, like I say, but around late 80s, I was running the newsletter at the time. Mike Hupy approached us and he wanted to advertise on the A-Bait newsletter.
Gotcha.
So he started buying ads. So he's been involved with A-Bait since the middle to late 80s, I would say. And then I was working at Briggs & Stratton at the time. I just left A.O. Smith as a welder and I started working at Briggs & Stratton. And Mike came up to me, and he was at an event that I was at in Waukesha, and I gave a speech. And he came up to me after the speech, and he wanted to know if I would be interested in working for him. And I was thinking, and by this time I shouldn't say I just started working for Briggs. I had 12 years in at Briggs already when
you got time in.
Yeah, when he approached me. And he's known me for 3 or 4 years before that. But so he offered me a job, and I said, well, man, I got like 12 years seniority. I was a trucker, I wasn't a piece worker, I wasn't making the big dollars like the women on the motor lines, but I was making fair living.
Sure.
So, and now I'm up in my years already, I'm in my middle 40s.
Okay.
So I said, well, I don't know, I'll have to think about it. But every year Briggs & Stratton had a program where people with seniority could take a voluntary layoff. So people had just started working, that were, younger people that had young families and they couldn't afford to be laid off. Mm-hmm. The senior people could take the voluntary to keep the younger people working so they could keep that steady income coming, sure, which was higher than unemployment. So I would take the voluntary every year. And I took the voluntary that summer, and I went to work for Mike, and I said, well, I don't know anything about motorcycle investigations. He said, well, we've got guys there that'll train you. So they trained me, and a year later I was training the trainers.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of cool. Well, a year later I took the voluntary again, and came to work for him part-time through the summer again. And then he offered me a full-time position, and that's when I was balancing that law firm, Briggs & Stratton, 12 years against, I'm 40-some years old, and if this doesn't work out, where am I going to go find a job at 47 years? So I had a lot of things bouncing around in my head, but I decided to take the plunge because I really enjoyed doing what I was doing, because I was doing that already. I was doing all kinds of motorcycle advocacy work, helping guys out with tickets, sure, helping guys that crashed.
Sure.
And I says, now I have a chance to do it and actually get paid for it. So
right. We all like to get paid for what we do in the motorcycle world.
Yeah. Appreciation is nice, but money works.
Right.
So I took the job. And it's like it was ordained or something. I I'm one of those guys that believes that everything happens in life for a purpose.
For a purpose.
You know, if you have a failure or you have a disappointment, don't let it get down, because that might be a reason to open a different door for you that might have been a better opportunity than the one that you just lost out on. So I was looking at the positive side of it, and as it turns out, Briggs & Stratton was phasing down, and my seniority date never got called back.
Oh, wow.
So if I would have went to go back, told Mike no and went to go back to Briggs, I would have been out of a job anyhow. And then I would have to come back to Mike and say, well, I changed my mind.
Hey, how about it? You still got that gift?
Yeah, and he probably would have still given it to me, but it worked out really, really well for me.
But true biker, you take a chance.
Yeah, I take a chance. Well, I mean, you have to take risks in life.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're stagnant. So and you miss a lot of opportunities. So it's been great, because not only did I get paid for doing things that I was already doing, like helping bikers, because I really enjoy doing that, but he also opened the opportunity for me to do more legislative work. When I was working at Briggs & Stratton, you could have 3 unexcused absences, and after that, you were in jeopardy of losing your job.
Right.
Like most employers, you can't just be taken off on a whim saying, oh, I can't come in tomorrow, I'm going to go to Madison and lobby. That doesn't work, you know. So Mike said, anytime you have to go to Madison, anytime you have to go to state, anytime you have to go to a club meeting or whatever, he says, go ahead and do it on the company time. So that really opened the door for me, and I made a lot of lobby trips. I lobbied in Washington, D.C. 3 times. I went out to San Diego, California twice, and I ran into an opportunity out there with the ABATE of California. I forget what they call themselves, locals instead of chapters. I think it was Local 6, if I remember right. Anyhow, the San Diego chapter of ABATE of California had a deal with Lorenzo Lamas when he had his TV show, The Renegade.
Okay.
I actually got on there as a bit player in 2 episodes, which is kind of cool. And that was a lot of fun. Got to meet Lorenzo. Now we're friends, Facebook friends. I see him in Sturgis every year.
Sure.
And Branscombe Richmond became a good friend of mine, and he's been at my compound. He did some musical stuff for us there. He's been at a couple of parties. So, you know, those are things that, like I said, I gave up that deal at Briggs thinking, well, I'm giving up 12 years of seniority and thinking a big chance, and it opened up all kinds of other doors.
The world opened up to you.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, does Hupy and Abraham, Sturgis a big deal for the law firm?
Yeah.
All right, it's coming up.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal, and I think a lot of people don't realize that Sturgis isn't just, you know, cruisers. We were actually talking about this recently. We have a podcast that we just started, Behind the Handlebars. That's Tony's. We'll see if that gets rolling, but you know, there's drag racing, there's hill climbs, there's sport bike rides. Like, Sturgis is a really comprehensive thing.
There's a whole lot going on.
I mean, knock on wood, I'll go there someday. But Tony's, you're actually heading there when? This weekend?
I'm leaving Saturday. I was going to leave Sunday, but I'm leaving Saturday.
Okay.
First time in 27 years, I'm ashamed to say I'm trailing, but I'm bringing a bike up for another guy.
Okay.
Oh, that's different.
So he can't get his bike out there, so I told him I would trail it out for him. First time in 27 years. But I said, I don't have anything to prove. I've been doing this for... I used to take my Panda out there and sleep in the ditch on the way out.
Tony is like the icon. I think they used you for a billboard for Harley, didn't they?
Tony's
face was on the billboard. Giant face on the highway, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a legend. He's
a real deal.
I tell people, if you go to Sturgis just for the crazy parties and the music, you know, that's part of it, and that's a crazy experience, and everybody should experience that once in a lifetime, because it is a lot of fun. You meet a lot of characters and see a lot of neat stuff. But if you don't go to the hill climbs or the drag races or the flat tracks, you're missing a whole lot of stuff that's going on. And there's all kinds of bike shows going on. Sure, lots of charity rides, benefits, and just people watching.
The whole salon.
You could go there and just watch people and not do anything else and still have a good time.
I know some people that's what they do. They just go there to watch all the bikes and everything, and people watch and whatnot. I'm like, okay.
Jason's going to be there, isn't he?
Jason's going to be there.
Yeah, the VP of our firm, Jason Abraham, will actually be going to Sturgis. He rides as well.
He was there last year too.
Yeah, we have a big riding community in the firm. We did a couple video shoots recently. We had 15 people, something like that. That wasn't even everybody. So got a really big community that rides in the office.
Okay, we'll have to have you guys out and ride with the club.
We're a little wild. I don't know about that.
right. Wild. right. No, it's a great time, the whole thing about motorcycles. I've got 4 of my guys that are going out to Sturgis this year, and they're going to have a good time with that. Some of us have to work, but you know, that's the way it goes.
I know, it's terrible.
Anything else coming up with the law firm as far as any kind of rides that's being sponsored, any kind of event you want to get out there?
Oh, I mean, we're constantly involved in events, both in, well, actually in Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin. So with, gosh, Wisconsin Harley-Davidson just had one, a green and gold party that was a Packard-themed thing. There's the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride that's coming up in a couple different states, and that's to benefit prostate cancer. Guys will put on like full suits and ride their motorcycles around the city. You know,
that's fun. You invite me to that, now I have to come and buy a suit.
Yeah.
right. Biker in a suit,
I feel like a bow tie for you, actually.
Surprise. Bikers in a suit. That's got to be something to see.
I could if I would, but it's the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride.
Gotcha.
So I think that's what that'll be. Motoblot we did recently, that's formerly Mods versus Rockers. We're definitely getting into the vintage scene a little bit more, which is an awesome one.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's constant. There are some weekends where we will have, gosh, what, 5 or 6 events in one day?
Yeah.
You know, motorcycle events. Rider
Lots
events.
of stuff going on.
How do you cover it all?
Don't sleep.
We've got a pretty dedicated team of people in our they call it the street team. It's our dedicated marketing team. Pretty dedicated team of people that get out there.
Yeah, we use, you know, we've been very lucky. We have just an awesome department in general. I mean, you know, between all the event coordinating and there are social pushes, we have radio shows. I have a radio show called Turn One. Actually, it's a podcast that's all about motorcycles, and guess what you're going to be featured on at some point.
Podcast.
Yeah, no.
That does something a little different.
We have, I think, a Twitter. I don't tweet. I'm not a tweeter. But I think we have a Twitter.
The whole Twitter thing is something else.
It's a little scary, isn't it?
Right. That's a whole other animal.
You got to be involved. You know, I mean, if you want to reach the younger, especially the younger riders, the younger generation, you have to be in. You have to be
to get into what they get into.
Me, when I started riding, if you were high tech, if you had a bottle opener on your keychain. Now these guys got GPS and stereos and but I mean, they're all connected electronically with social media.
Sure.
And you can't keep up with this stuff.
Sure.
We have Instagram, YouTube, a couple different Instagrams actually. YouTube as well. I mean, we have a lot of different platforms that we try to reach riders. We offer our stickers if anybody wants those. You can watch motorcycles. Articles. Tony actually is a great writer, and we have articles
like I said,
all the time.
I was a stringer for Easy Riders for about 14 years.
You were a what?
A stringer.
A what?
They call it a stringer. It's like a contributor.
Contributing writer.
I did writing and submitted articles.
Wow.
And photographs. And I worked with Billy Tinney, who's a very famous photographer for Easy Rider. Everybody that gets Easy Riders knows who Billy Tinney is. And he and Michael Lichter, another famous photographer who's also a friend of ours, they always got the covers. And at that time, I haven't done any submissions for Easy Rider for years, but at that time, the most you could get in print was 5 pages. That's the max. Most of the time when you submit an article, you got a page, or maybe even less page if you were lucky. Every time I submitted articles on events around here in the Midwest, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the 70s and 80s in Wisconsin. I always got the full 5 pages. And I usually got about 3 or 4 of my photographs, sometimes more. When I was doing a Waupun Prison show, I used to get a 2-page spread of just photographs. And they paid you $25 a picture.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot of money.
That's pretty good money.
But the cover paid $400. I never got the cover. The cover was locked up by Billy and Michael. They got all it. But they were, you know, fantastic photographers. But I worked for FTW magazine. I wrote for Choppers. I had my own publication going on for a while called Midwest Biker. And Bob Bitchin, who owned Biker magazine at the time, wanted to sue me. His lawyers called me up and said they were going to sue me because they said I couldn't use that word Midwest Biker because he owned Biker. I said, well, you might own Biker, but you don't own Midwest. So and I worked for Bob Bitchin when he had FTW, and what was the other? I forgot what the other magazine he was. I was one of his reporters, or one of his assorted gang of individuals out there in the country, you know. So he kind of just laughed it off and let it go. He was just trying to scare me on using that name. It was me and Frog from the DC Eagles that had that publication. And it worked as a supplement to the ABA newsletter because it was mostly all rights issues and things going on in there. So that was kind of a cool thing. So, and I worked for Tattoo magazine too, which is cool because I got all kinds of free tattoos. Every time I did an article on a guy, there we are.
Oh, it's such a great idea.
Yeah, because the ink is
That's what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, this stuff is expensive.
Hey, just go ahead and lay something down and I'll interview it. Right. So tattoos while you wait.
Oh my god.
That's pretty good.
Well, we also both write for Roadhog Z-Magazine as well, and we also write for, the firm has a news brief that's twice yearly too. I mean, so we do a lot of publications, a lot of podcasts, a lot of social media pushes.
Okay.
Again, just trying to get involved on every avenue that we can, you know, with the motorcycle awareness and motorcycle news message. Absolutely.
And that needs to get out.
Absolutely.
There are people out there that actually ride a motorcycle that give a shit about you.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, the thing that impresses
every type.
Right. The thing that impresses me about the firm, and I've been approached by 2 other law firms since I started working for Mike, wanting to hire me and come work for them.
Okay.
We never even got to the part of negotiations about how much did I get and how much could they give me. We never got that far. I just said no, because I didn't see any involvement in the community with them.
Sure.
Mike's been so involved with the motorcycle community, and what impressed me was, as a personal injury attorney, you would think everybody calls those guys ambulance chasers, this and all stuff, and but Mike would say my number one purpose or my goal is to reduce the numbers of injuries and crashes. That's why we got this huge awareness campaign going.
Sure.
We've for at least for a decade now, we've hunted hundreds of thousands of stickers. Watch for motorcycle stickers.
Sure.
So he's trying to prevent crashes, which is commendable.